Hey everybody, Jason here. Quick note before we get started with Liz and Jeremy. We have a lot in store for you, including a Kickstarter preview that Liz normally does for a couple of games. But I realized that another project that we're really rooting for is about to end. So we wanted to include a separate In Liz We Trust segment, and then we're going to get on with the episode. Liz will tell you all about this very, very awesome project, and then away we go.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to encourage your Every Night is Game Night acquisition disorder. Today I want to talk about Upstairs Downstairs from Ryder Games. It's an expansion for one of my favorite games of the past year, Obsession. Obsession is set in England during the 1860s, and it's all about building up your estate, inviting the best guests to your parties, and perhaps winning the heart of a charming heir or heiress in the process. I had a great time with the original solo mode of the game, and Dan Halligan, the designer, has added a more interactive solo bot that I'm very curious to try. If you enjoy Jane Austen novels or shows like Downton Abbey, then Obsession might really hit the spot for you. I initially received a review copy of this game, but I'm choosing to back the reprint with my own money, partially because the game is from a small publisher, and partially because so much love and development has gone into it, and I support that. If you're interested in checking out Upstairs Downstairs or the full reprint of Obsession, make sure to have a look at the campaign before it ends on October 15th. Happy gaming!
Every Night is Game Night, episode 159. Post GenCon 2019 wrap-up, part 5. More Kickstarter goodies. Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to Every Night is Game Night, the podcast that helps you get your head in the game. I'm your host, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. It was so much fun having Liz and Jeremy last week. I invited them back on this week. No, I didn't invite them. This is the same day. The magic of podcasting. We do 2 episodes in one day. But Liz is back from Beyond Solitaire and the Dice Tower. Welcome back, Liz.
Always happy to be back.
And Jeremy is back from Jambalaya Plays Game and Man vs. Meeple. Welcome back, Jeremy.
Hey, party people. Happy to be back.
This is Jason from Every Night is Game Night and nothing else.
I am Jason. The great Jason.
Yes.
Sound like your job in a wrestling match.
Oh, I love me some professional wrestling. We'll turn this into a podcast about wrestling right now. All right, time out. I can't do that. People are like, what's happening here? I'm turning this off.
What's going on?
All right, welcome back. We had a lot of fun last time talking about some games, talking about pricing and everything, going a little bit crazy. We always get just kind of like fly off the handle and talk about stuff, whatever happens. I love hanging out with you.
I love hanging out with y'all too. My dream is for all of us to end up at PAX Unplugged again this year. I don't know if it'll happen.
Oh yeah.
But
so we can talk crap about some.
You got me in my feels, man. I got to make this happen. I got a family vacation that may possibly happen right the week before, so it's like. It's so tight. I got to make sure I have time for everybody, and I really want to make sure I get to this family vacation. We've been really been waiting for a big family vacation, so we shall see. I might even do it if I could just come for like Friday, Saturday. I got to see you guys, man. Like, whatever.
Yeah. Hang out, get some food. Oh, Jeremy, you weren't at that place, the Chinese food. Healthy place.
Noodles.
The noodle place. Yes. Oh, you were there. So, were you there? I forget. Whatever.
No.
Okay.
No. Because I went to that one player guild thing. We went like that.
Right. That was the next day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to see if I make it up to PAX Unplugged too. There's still a little bit.
Oh, you better go, man.
I'll see. I'll check it out. Anyway. Cool. So we got some more games, more Kickstarter goodies that have delivered, and we are here to share them with you. A lot of these games were featured at GenCon, so we kind of folded under the rubric of more GenCon goodness. I mean, I think we're going to run through about 30 games total by the time we're all done. I think, Liz and Jerry, between the 3 of us, we reviewed 50 games on ENGN so far. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like they just go by in a blur,
It's nuts. So much stuff. And we have more for you, and we're going to keep on rolling. I mean, as long as people are producing games, we're going to review them. But so we are going to get to a bunch of games after the Liz We Trust segment. Liz, unfortunately, I'm going to ninja this one from you. Is that okay? Can I ninja something from you?
That is totally fine.
I want to talk about a friend. I don't know if Jeremy, I don't know if you've worked with Vincent before over at Lucky Duck.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely.
He has a project on there called Time of Legends.
Yeah.
Which is currently on Kickstarter right now. It'll be on there for, I guess, another week or so after this episode airs. It is an adventure, competitive, app-driven game. I don't know how that's going to go. Usually these are cooperative. But it's one of those, open adventure. There's a whole bunch of these projects on Kickstarter right now. The twist is, this is competitive, and it's also it unfolds a story based on not just like it gives you the overall narrative, but it also kind of goes really deep. Like you can scan individual items and you get, like the wondrous sword of whatever, and you can kind of scan it and it gives you a side quest off of the item. And so it really tries to use the app to path you and, advance narrative that way, which I thought was a pretty cool invention. And, it just has a lot of, it's a little bit hard to kind of discern mechanisms. Like there's a couple videos that you can see in terms of gameplay. But it's another project. We just got the Isofarian Guard, which is a similar project, which is, app-driven narrative games.
Yeah. I played both at GenCon, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I played both of them at GenCon. We'll play like this. I'll just tell you, like, Isofarian Guard, okay? I'm going to tell you, if you are a backer of Isofarian Guard, which may be in the Pledge Manager by the time you hear this, I want you to take a look at that one, especially if you're a solo gamer or it's just like a couple, like you and somebody else plays games a lot together. This game is epic. And the cool part about that game is that he's created this world of many campaigns. There's 4 campaigns, and you're basically going to be traveling. You actually kind of start on your own, and then you meet up with the other person, and you're going to these different areas, different sideboards, and like competing quests and finding out your story. But the cool part about it is like it's got this bag building kind of attack system to it, where you're putting your stats in the bag, and you're putting your defensive and offensive stats in the bag. So you'll have more swords in the bag if you attack more, that kind of thing. And if you have poison, you get poison, you put poison chips in the deck too. So it's like, it's got some really cool little combat systems. And the one thing I want to be clear on, because this is a total mind flip for me, is this has it's got heavy text, right? Like let's say like Madara, like it's got a ton of text. It doesn't have a ton of text, but it has a lot. They have some of the best voice work I have ever heard, ever. Like, I don't care about that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, it's usually like so corny, I can't stand it. He hired, whatever studio he hired to do this stuff sounds epic. I mean,
as a whole different studio that they hired called Foreteller. It was
level.
A lot.
Yeah, I was sitting there with my earphones on. He's like, just look at it and then kind of play the game while you're doing it. It was epic. Like, I was all in. Like, and yeah, it's just got that's a really cool game. Both of those games are very, very cool. I had demos of both, and I was impressed with both. I'm backing both.
All right.
So
we just complained about money, Liz. More grasping at the meager funds.
Liz with the bottle lid over here. How do you feel about these?
Although, Liz, you're kind of gravitating more towards kind of the historical, kind of wargamer crunchy fare over there, aren't you?
Yeah, that seems to be like a developing taste for me recently. I've started to trend a little heavier, and I've started to feel more attracted to games with historical themes. I still like fantasy games, but that used to be more what I gravitated towards, and now I'm liking games that make me want to read a book after to figure out what I just played.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one caveat I'll give about both of these games, the Isofarian Guard and Time of Legends, is it seems to kind of weigh a little bit more on the narrative side than on the gameplay side. I mean, Jeremy was describing kind of the bag building, and Time of Legends has this kind of, some tracker systems that you're using. It sounds like you might get a lot of narrative, so kind of buyer beware on that. But just, these are 2 projects. Isofarian Guard should be in Pledge Manager right now. Time of Legends will be live. So take a look. Fantasy adventure, thematic adventure, a solo gamer's dream. All right. So
you're dead accurate when you say that. Definitely a lot more narrative coming up, and there's a couple projects that are coming now. They are very heavy narrative coming into this fall. Very heavy. Oathsworn is next. Very heavy narrative.
Yeah.
But they put a lot of work into that voice work. Same thing. Like so top notch. you will actually care like what's going on. So
Right.
We'll see how good people are at producing those experiences, and maybe we are ready for those, because most of the time they were lame back in the day. So like now we're seeing people put money into it. So we'll see.
I'm curious.
Good.
Yeah.
Speaking of narrative, so we have 4 games for you today. All kind of pretty big chunky games. So we're going to give a little bit of elbow room, talk about each of these. Liz, you're up first. Again, speaking of narrative, this one we did a preview series for way back in the day. It has delivered, and it has. By the time you hear this, the second expansion will be off of Kickstarter, and you did a preview for this one for ENGN anyway. This one is Detective: City of Angels, designed by Evan Derrick, published by Ryder Games.
Yes. So Detective City of Angels is a game that's set in like 1940s LA, and you are playing a detective who's trying to solve a number of cases that range from easy to much more difficult. What makes the game interesting is that there's several different modes of play. So if you're playing competitively, what's really interesting is that you and the other detectives are competing to solve the case first. So that means that you might try to hide evidence from each other. You might try to search places and get information that other players might not have. And you're also bribing each other to get access to each other's cards. It's really kind of a cutthroat experience. And then the person running that game is somebody who's called the Chisel, and they only win if all the detectives lose. And what the Chisel is responsible for is giving responses when you question suspects in the game. So the Chisel has the option to try to misdirect you or even outright lie to you as part of their selection of responses during the game. And you have to decide what you think of their answer and figure out if you're going to challenge. So the competitive mode of the game, honestly, I think might be the most fun. I've had a really good time playing it as a detective, but what I normally do is I play the case solo against what's called the Sleuth Casebook, which you can still look up responses and decide to challenge them. It's just that it's the book doing it instead of another human. And so I will usually play the game solo against the casebook, and then I will actually turn on a Chisel for my game group. And it's been really fun, actually. I've gotten a lot of people who like to play games but don't necessarily identify as board gamers to have a really good time with Detective. It's got a really good thematic flair all the way through the game. There's even a fun glossary of kind of noir terminology in one of the books. And there's something about the game that's just really... Hang on, it's my cat. There's just something about...
I'm looking at that cat prowl behind you, the entire description. That cat is just like looking for an opportunity to grab that mic.
Opportunity to get in the cam.
Yeah, the microphone was the limit for me. But Detective City of Angels is one of those games where it's great because the cases work really well, and as they grow in complexity, you're going to get more kind of false leads, and you have to really decide if you want to have a go at solving the case before the end. You have a limited amount of time as it is. It's a very tense and exciting and fun and just really well put together game. I would say that if you like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but you want it to feel like more of a game, then Detective City of Angels is for you.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this was built ground up as a multiplayer game, and with that Chisel player kind of interaction with the Chisels trying to deceive you and everything, how does that book translate and replace the Chisel experience? Is that really... Because it seems like you could lose so much in that translation.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm not sure that you do, and here's why. What you lose it's not the Chisel that you lose. It's the frustration of knowing that one of your fellow players has information that you don't, and it's making you crazy. Yeah. The Chisel themselves. So my one kind of quibble with the game actually is that when you Chisel, honestly, you feel more like a game runner than like a competitor.
Okay.
Like, I mean,
so you can't just go all out and like, I'm going to crush you 4 players. You can't do that.
No, because you only have a set amount of responses you can offer.
Okay.
And those are pre-written for you. So I can't make up a response on my own. You know what I mean? I have to offer one that the game gives me to offer when I'm chiseling.
Right.
And so, I mean, what you can do is the chisel is somewhat limited. Maybe your facial expressions and trying to keep a poker face can help you. But really playing against the casebook, you're seeing the exact same responses that you would see. It's just that the chisel doesn't hand them to you. Yeah. And, there's a grid that gives you a paragraph in there to search. Like if you search a location, it'll take you to the same text that's on the search cards. I checked, and it'll, it doesn't feel that different in terms of the responses you get. It's just, I would say that the difference is really in having other detectives to compete against. Because when one of us gets a good search and picks up a card and everyone's looking at you like, oh, do you have the piece of evidence that I needed to do this thing? And then everybody's like chasing you all around the board trying to bribe you for the information, or like they go to the police station to do it. You know, that's where the drama is. And like every time somebody questions the suspect in the multiplayer game and it's competitive, you can decide whether you're going to pay a snitch to listen in on the conversation. So sometimes you pay your hard-earned money, which is a pretty precious resource of the game, and you just hear this garbage answer that was completely a waste of time. And then other times you get really good stuff, especially if the chisel lies and then the detective challenges and they're right, and you know that you're getting the most useful and most truthful response, and it's juicy. It's so satisfying to have bribed.
Yeah.
So like, and the chisel can block some of your bribing and some of your questioning. But, you know, the chisel, I feel like, really only has limited options, as opposed to the detectives who have many ways of getting information that they want.
Mm-hmm. So you felt like there was a good split between solo and multiplayer. Solo kind of prepares you for being a chisel. Yeah. There's value in there on all sides. I have not played this. I would love to. That sounds really awesome.
I think it's great. If we're ever all in the same location with the game, I will chisel for you gladly.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds really wonderful. Thank you. You will chisel for us.
All right, so that was a very positive review. Looking forward to it. Detective City of Angels, Kickstarter exclusive and con exclusive. You won't be able to get these at retail, so pick your spots and see if you can track this down however you can. All right, we are going to move on to our next game from Jeremy. A game named after a city, which if it's named after a city, then I am not about it. If it's named after a city, it's as I mean, I'm like, you know, Carcassonne or, Lisboa. You were preaching about Lisboa, right?
Yeah.
I'm not playing that.
Mix it out. It was so good.
All right, so this one is Gugong, where a Panjun was the I think the expansion that was kickstarted this past year.
Yeah, I did a solo playthrough of that one. So if you're interested, I'm sure that one will be in Pledge Manager. You can go to the Man vs. Meeple Facebook page. I played it live. I played it with two of the pieces of the modules that are in there, and I had a really good time. But let me just talk about this game. So basically, it's a time of it's kind of a corrupt time and. A lot of bribery going on and stuff like that. So I guess since it was like a hidden, people had to hide, these families had to hide how they exchanged gifts and things like that, so they wouldn't get in trouble. So what you have are these set of cards, and you're going to be going around to different locations, and you're trading with people or trading with these areas, the cards on the board. And you have to trade with cards that are higher value than the ones that are currently there in order to take the actions that are on the boards. Now, you'll have a pool of workers that you have.
Actually, what is the game overall? Like, what am I doing? Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So basically in this game, you are going around to different locations, and you're going around different locations to set collect. You're going and you're getting decrees to score points during the game, in game. You're rebuilding the wall of China. There's even parts of the board where you travel across and pick up little tokens to take extra actions. It's got a whole bunch of, I call it the game of 7 locations because it's like 7 mini games in this game. And you're playing it over 4 rounds, and then the ultimate thing is that it'll trigger an end game where you actually have to get to the top of a hill to even win the game, to be part of the win game anyway. You could actually not be part of the end game at all. There's all these things you got to pay attention to, but what this really all boils down to is it's just a real slick hand management game. And like I said, it's literally 7 mini games. And the cool part is that I think it's going to require, it requires a little bit of, you kind of have to lick your wounds a little bit, because you're people who are more experienced than you are going to figure out how to like work their own little system depending on how you choose. Like some people focus on Jade because it increasingly scores you a lot of points, while other people see, because of the way the tiles are laid out at the top and you travel around, well, you get to basically pick up those tiles and take up extra actions. They could give you extra workers. They could give you, bonuses for turning in cards. There's so many different things you can do. But yeah, it's just, the game constantly rewards you for being patient and like toppling on opportunities.
Like you talk about like 7, is this a how brain burner? How high is the temperature? 1 to 10 on the brain burner scale.
You know what? I'm not gonna do that thing where it's like, it's really light when it comes down to it, man.
Oh, it makes sense if you play it 17 times.
That person. It's like it's got a lot going on, but like it's really simple once you get it down. Well, yeah, if you can get past the first play. I think
the stupid people that rate like Food Chain Magnate a 3. It's a midweight game.
Yeah, it's the midweight game. Yeah.
If that's a midweek game, what are they playing that they consider a heavy game?
What is happening?
Right. So I'm like, oh yeah. So this is the thing. This is definitely like in the heart of the medium weight, moving towards heavy. But I'm gonna say it's right in the heart of that medium weight because you can get this entire game in one game. Like you can mentally get it. You just go like, oh man, I want to get this double worker next time because the double worker actually counts as one worker in a couple different places, but it's still 2. So it's like, okay, I want to make sure I have that, or I'm not going to focus on Jade this much this round, or this decree tile is actually going to be more important. So now I know how to score it next time. I paid attention to it the wrong way. Or now all these travel tokens are out, so I want to grab a whole bunch of those, now. Or I'll grab a whole bunch of those, and then I'll start converting them into more workers. Like even just managing the workers that you have from your general supply to your normal supply is one major part of the game. So like there's just a lot of cool stuff going on here. And by the way, the solo in this game is good. It's not great. I bought it. I really wanted it because of that. It's really good though. It will teach you how to play the game really well because you will get pummeled. But like the AI,
but that's not where it's at. Yeah.
At the beginning of the day, he takes like the weaker actions. So he takes all the weaker actions. And then in between, there's like a midnight time where he takes the other version of those actions, which is the better actions. And then you score the night phase. And it's kind of, it basically teaches you how to be way more efficient because he's just going to pummel you he's just going to pummel you every round if you don't pay attention. And he increases on how he matches up cards, which is going to score him points. So you got to be prepared for that. Yeah.
All right. So that was Gugong. I made a big deal about this being named after a place. It's actually the Chinese word for Forbidden City, which is the basically in the capital in Beijing, which I've been to. It's actually, it's actually real nice down there. It feels weird going in the Forbidden City, like because outside it's just regular Beijing with cars and kites and everything, and you go inside and it's like you're teleported into whatever century.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. Really cool. Okay, so that was Gugong. We are going to move on to another. Well, actually, I'm not really sure what this game is all about. I saw this game on the list, and I knew that Liz also gave it a shot, and I know that your man, Stan Kordonsky, is the designer on this one. So, Liz, I'm going to give you the floor. I don't know if do you have a Dice Tower review of Rurik, Dawn of Kiev, either up or coming?
It is upcoming.
It is upcoming.
Yeah, I'll
so
probably
that
film it. I might film it this weekend, actually, and then it'll come up within the next week or so.
All right, so you're going to get a video, and we are going to talk about it now. That is Rurik, Dawn of Kiev.
All right, so Rurik, Dawn of Kiev is an area control game that has sort of an interesting addition on it, which is something called auction programming. So basically the idea is that you are all a bunch of potential successors to the throne of... It just says an 11th century Eastern European kingdom. It's got the kind of like Russian, Ukrainian vibe. But so basically you are trying to ascend the throne, and you're doing this in 3 ways. So you try to control multiple regions in the territory that you're fighting over. You try to build buildings in adjacent regions of the territory, and you try to get the most goods by taxing those regions. But since everybody wants to do all of those things, you have this mechanism that's called auction programming that helps you decide what you're going to bid to do and in what order it's eventually going to happen. So you're going to have these little advisors who have numbers on them, 1 through 5. And one at a time, everybody places their advisors out to bid. Do you want to muster more troops? Do you want to attack? Do you want to build? Do you want to tax? Do you want to scheme and get cards with bonuses on them? You have choices. But one advisor is going to be weak and get pushed to a weaker version of the action potentially, but he gets to go first when you play. If you put out your 5 for something, your odds of getting to do the strongest version of that action go up, but you're also not going to be able to perform that action until closer to the end of the round. So a lot of it is deciding about the balance between, do I want the most souped up version of this action possible, or do I need to do this earlier in the turn before I can do something else? And then money is pretty tight in the game, but if you have some, you can put it with your advisors to increase their value through bribery. So, you're kind of jockeying for position, pushing other people out of the way, hoping that somebody doesn't outbid you and push you down the track for, how powerful your version of that action is going to be. And, at the end of each round, you score for how well you've done on the various objectives. And that's essentially it. There's some other stuff, but basically you're bidding to take actions and you score based on how well you've done in terms of control, building, and goods collection with some extra victory point stuff built in. There is a solo mode. There are 4 difficulty levels, and basically there's an AI deck that will help you decide what that opponent will do, and their priorities will shift based on what you're doing well in the game as you progress, and it gets more bonuses as the game goes by to make itself more challenging.
So I played the solo mode live. Once again, if you want to watch that one, it's on the Man vs. Meeple Facebook page. I do solo Sundays on that stuff, so kind of stuff like that. But it's a little clunky. The rules are they're a little, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's really like, are you ahead? Are you behind? Are they behind? They'll do this. But some of that movement order and things like that, it's just, you're going to kind of have to be like looking in the book a little bit, making sure the rules are checking out. But usually you have it right. It's just that like there is some room of interpretation that you may not necessarily get all the time. So you'll be like, wait, what am I really doing here? Plus, without a doubt, they're going to get some big bumps between each round. So you definitely want to make sure you get it right so you're not actually just getting pummeled, because it's not an easy solo mode. And that's good. I mean, that's very, very good. It's that one's designed by, I believe, John Briger, and he does a lot of different stuff for solo stuff. So it's challenging. There is just a little bit of a learning curve, and I'm not sure that, like, if I said this was a solo only purchase, I can't recommend it as a solo only purchase. But overall, to round out the box, I like this game quite a bit, and it is a total departure from a game that I'm into. Total. I've kind of become this dudes of the map type person now, and I just was not that guy at the beginning of 2019. I was not that guy, and this is one of those ones where I was like, you know what, man? When he brought it up, he's like, it's coming out. I'm like, yeah, I want it. Yeah, I want this game. And yeah, it's a very, very good game. High quality, Peacekeeper game, small company. And I'm glad that they did this game. It's great.
So I'm going to give some opinion, which is, okay, this is not a bad game. It's a very decent game. I think that the auction programming does feel different. However, I'm not totally convinced that enough of the rest of the game feels different. Like, that kind of cool Russian theme doesn't necessarily come through in the game. And I kind of still have a little bit of gaming, like, I guess, deja vu about some aspects of it. It's like, all right, move a guy, tax for a resource. Like, there's some ways in which the game feels so familiar with those different aspects put onto it. And I'm still deciding, like, how exactly I feel about it.
When you say that, I totally agree. I actually totally agree with you on that. But I often, when I look at games like this, and I'm thinking just not this game, I'm thinking, okay, well, I want this game because I know that system, right? That sounds interesting. But at the end of the day, it is this kind of game, area control game. And then the other stuff is just the historical look of it all. Like, what's the source materials there? I just don't know how much else you can even attach to it, honestly, other than that really staying true to the theme of the setting, of the actual map being the setting, and also the characters and what they actually were. Which I only know that because of Stan. That's the reason why he chose those core abilities for those people. He tried to put them in line with the type of person they were or whatnot a little bit. So yeah, and the art, because he went back and forth about that, specifically to find the art that was actually going to represent his culture. And I mean, down to the flags and all that stuff, like everything. So, yeah, I do feel like it is like feels like that generic other stuff, but that part right there, that board right there, just did it for me. And I know that's the thing. It's like just like a video game. You can strip it all away and just say, hey, it has this. Like, but I feel, like you can strip it all away and just say, hey, like it's got this cool board and it's got minis. Like that's the thing. So I understand what you're saying there. I just think it's a good game.
Yeah, there's definitely something to it. I also will say, if this designer releases more, I want to play it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a bad game. I'm just trying to decide where it is in the scale between, all right, it's good, and like, verging on something more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I would say, even as I'm close to it, I would just say that I think it's a good game. I don't think it's like fantastic, like this, like World Breaker. I just like that system. I really like that. I would like to see some version of it implemented or expanded on it, and I believe they are working on an expansion for it. So I would like to see where that goes, if there's more actions involved, things like that. But that's what Buddy's saying. He's a really good designer. He really designs good games. And they're all over the place. Let's see, Dice Hospital. You got this one here. You got OS Impresario, which is like kind of like a Tableau engine builder type game. Mm-hmm. He's got a couple other ones which I can't talk about, but he's got a lot of games. We got one
next week.
What's that?
Jeremy, you're going to be on there for next week's review for Lockup.
Yeah.
That is also another stand game.
Yep, that's his other game too. And he just keeps making these interesting things, man. He's not trying to be bold. It's just that like he really has a different mind about these games.
All right, so that was Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. Liz and Jeremy have been good enough to carry me through this episode because I've not played any of these games, so I will accede to their collective wisdom when it comes to some of these things. I hope that you guys are finding value in, pulling in these co-hosts who are playing all sorts of different games, but I'm going to jump in right here. I got to play this game a bunch. And this is maybe one of the biggest releases from GenCon. It was definitely there for purchase. There for purchase before I got my pledge.
Wow.
Just
oh, no.
Putting that out there.
Somebody's got issues.
That's all good. I understand. They apologized. They got to me pretty quickly. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Cloudspire. Cloudspire was designed by Adam and Josh Carlson, published by Chip Theory Games. So, Cloudspire is the third game after Hoplomachus that they've published. Hoplomachus was a dueling game. That Jeremy is walking back into the camera. This is a podcast, but he wants to make a show of him hugging the Cloudspire box.
I gotta go to bed, y'all.
Good Lord, Jeremy, what are you doing? This is a podcast.
Me and Bay got it. All right.
So that first game was Hoplomachus, which was a dueling game, and then Too Many Bones, a co-op adventure, their second game, but all using the chips that are walking around on a kind of abstract point-to-point board. We're back to competitive skirmishing. That's kind of the core of the game, is a competitive skirmish game, but in a MOBA style, a multiplayer online battle arena is what MOBA means. Think of a Clash of Clans. Think of, games where you're just kind of like marshaling troops and sending them all at each other, and, may the most strategic person win. So you are an army commander, and you're commanding one of 4 factions. In this game, you're going to deploy troops, you're going to erect siege towers, and you're going to try to wipe out your enemy. No points to be had. No victory points, anything like that. You are throwing down. Okay, so you start with your faction board. Your faction board is it's Chip Theory, so it's a nice neoprene mat. You could play underwater, and it's nothing's gonna happen to the game. I think they do that on some of their Kickstarter things. So, like, they try to do interesting things with the neoprene boards to show how cool they are. Yeah. So at one point, they like play it underwater, they're stretching it out. It's like, okay.
The spill videos are so funny. They're so ridiculous, and just if you know these guys. Yeah, they just really are so silly and hammy about it, and I love the first one is so funny because it's just like playing Too Many Bones, and they go and knock over a full glass of water. It's so silly. Yeah.
All right, so you have your own personal board, and the personal board is you basically use that personal board to upgrade what you can do, what you have at hand, in order to be able to deploy it to maximum effect. So there's 2 general phases to the game. The first phase is a build-up phase. So you're going to be buying troops, and the troops are chips. You can buy them individually. You can buy, and they kind of represent your guard. And they don't have autonomy. They don't you don't move them. You don't make decisions for them. The decision is in the buying. And once you buy them, you deploy them. They're just going to follow a path. and the game is split up, and it isn't like a wholly open thing. There's terrain, and certain troops can move over different terrain if they just move along a very little narrow path if they have no terrain movement. And it's like in Clash of Clans, you buy your barbarians and you set them loose. You can't tell the barbarians to go here and there. They're just gonna go. Yeah. You see those walls? Go get them.
Go.
And they're gonna move slowly. And that's the bulk of what you're gonna buy is those troops. You can also buy siege towers. So as the game progresses, you're gonna be taking over zones, and you can put siege towers on there, and they are also automated in the sense that they fire on their own. You could upgrade them, you could change them, you could build them different ways, but for the most part, when the actual combat starts, whatever's in range, they're automatically going to fire. I'll get back to that in a second. The last thing you could buy is a hero. That's where you have the autonomy. That's where you can kind of get your personal, imagine the war was raging in the middle of the field, but then your hero can kind of go different places and do different things, so you have full autonomy over that particular unit. So you're choosing. Right? You're choosing what you want to play on the board in each individual wave. A competitive game generally has 4 waves, and you get certain resources for the first wave. And then after that wave, where you basically just set all the troops loose, and it's like, all right, fire, go. And then once the last troop goes down, you go back to your second wave and you repurchase. You get those troops back, and you reprove them and all that kind of stuff. So you're going over that, you get 4 waves of it, and then, the best man or the best woman or whoever it is wins. That is the basic essence of the competitive game. All right. So is it a good solo game? So far we've reviewed 3 games where we liked the basic game, but then the solo is like this kind of after the fact thing, which is great. keep on giving us solo modes, because these are Kickstarters and they should all have solo modes to varying degrees of success. I was a little bit worried about the Cloudspire solo because of it's at its heart a competitive game. It is a clashing game, and I think the game is best as a multiplayer competitive game. However, the solo mode I thought was cool. What you're doing in the solo mode is you take one troop, let's say the Brahmin. The Brahmin is the first faction that you get. So and they're the easiest faction. They're like dwarves. They're just kind of they build up and you get big units of them, and they just kind of, hulk around and smash stuff. So then you're going to be going through a 4-arc campaign with the Brahmin. And you're going to be fighting the heirs, which is another faction. And then the next troop, you're going to be fighting this other faction. Thematically, how they justify it is it's a land where the terrain is all changed, and now all these factions are vying for territory. So then you're the Brahmin. The Brahmin is going to be conquering territory. And then you play those 4 games against the different factions, and then you move over to the heirs. They're fighting back. So okay, now they have this cool thing where if you built certain things as the Brahmin, build certain spires, certain places, then that carries over to your plays as the heirs. Oh. So okay, I'm going to now destroy that tower that I built when I was the Brahmin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm a thematic gamer, and it isn't huge, and you can totally miss that, but I really appreciated the attempt at kind of building a world, even though the solo is basically play 4 games with this faction, play 4 games with that faction, play 4 games with the other faction. So I thought that was pretty cool, and there's some good story moments and everything. And so the narrative is held up together pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's the best thing in the world, but I like the fact that they tried to paint this picture of warring factions playing tug of war on the universe. Does it play well? It plays well, really, really well, actually. I was really happy with the solo because of the fact that most of what you're doing is setting the troops and letting them go. The bot is programmed into your play so that when it gets to solo and you're facing against it, most of it's already automated. That's already baked into the system. Right. So it works fine. And all you have to do is kind of script what the hero does, because the hero, they just follow different rules depending on what the scenario is. So it's almost like they baked in 75% of solo just right off the bat. They just capped it off with a really kind of solid campaign. And I had a good time. My only limitation is it takes you about, like, you have to play 4 games. And it's 5 waves or 4 or 5 waves per thing. So like in 20 waves, I've done as much character growth as I do in 4 waves at the competitive mode.
Okay.
Like in the competitive, I can just like go. It's like, okay, I get a lot of stuff first and then more stuff and more and more. Here, they really pace it out. And that's not bad. You get enough to play with and it's solid and it's fun. And I guess it's more of a player preference. Like some people like that longer growth pattern. They don't just want to get thrown into, a lot of options at once. And the solo might be a good way to kind of learn slowly, and then you're ready to throw down. And like I feel like having played a lot of solo, I'm ready. Just like, all right, let's go.
do you feel like, but the way you're saying it, it almost feels like you're training to be that faction. Like let's say to bring it back to the multiplayer game, and now you know every inner working of how that faction works now.
Oh yeah, if I'm the Bronin, you
right? Like because when you do get those cards out for the, that's a lot, right? Like it's a very big presentation on those cards of like, what are you doing with the buildings? What do your troops do? How do they upgrade? Because there's a lot of little details in there that we could talk about forever in that game. So, but by the time you play those solo scenarios, you are kind of going through all of that. To the point where you're like, I know the inner workings of how they are, so I can move forward to the next one. And
so I have a question.
It's not just learning. Good.
All right. So tying us back to our discussion of costs, right, and investment. Would you buy this game for only solo at the price that it's at?
Well, I'll answer that question. I just want to kind of round out because there is another part of the game, cooperative.
Yeah.
So there is. So you would think. If there's a solo in the thing, it wouldn't be that much of a difficulty to put in a cooperative mode to get the 2 people cooperating. So that one, I have this thing where I sigh whenever I don't want to like lay the hammer down. So like, it's not great. Cooperative mode, I'm a cooperative gamer at heart. That's like my favorite type of game. So I was really disappointed. Really what the cooperative is bad is that you're fighting 2 factions and it's automating 2 factions at once. And it doesn't really work because like they get in each other's way. Like sometimes they'll just kind of bottleneck each other and not move.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's one path, the 2 armies are going, and it's like, okay, well, one troop's in the way, they don't hop each other. Oh, great. So it's like, it looks stupid. It just takes you out of it entirely. And managing both of those troops is a pain in the butt. So like, I think the idea was one person would manage one set of troops and the other person would manage the other set of troops. And it's like, it's still one person managing one bot. That's not what happens. It's one person managing both bots and then another person, or at least being aware of both bots. Cause you're like, okay, I've got to take out that Groveton and I got to take out this and I take out that. It's a pass as a cooperative game, so it hurts me because I'm a cooperative gamer. Is it worth it for solo? I will say that I don't know another game like this with that gives you that MOBA, Clash of Clans, hiring troops, setting those troops off, and they're kind of like, the troop part is automated and the siege towers are automated. The siege towers actually remind me of like, you ever play Plants vs Zombies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you lay a plant and the plant just like shoots at whatever's near it.
I played an embarrassing amount of Plants vs Zombies.
Yeah. And I play the Advanced Warfare game too. I love Plants vs Zombies.
There's a lot of games that do this, like you set a tower and it just kind of fires in front. But it seriously, like I really did feel like I was, when I put in a tower and then whatever came down there, it was like, yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
I don't know another solo game that does that. I really don't. So like, is it like, I can't think of like, so you asked that question, I can't think of it kind of out of that context. So if there were like a lot of those games with like a more reasonable cost, then, maybe this would be you take a second look at this one and say, maybe not. But like, I don't know that I'm ever going to get that experience of setting up troops and having them fire off. But then the hero can kind of do whatever he wants. If he could like explore landmarks on the side and power up that way, and basically side quest, because this game kind of side quest.
Yeah.
Or
effect to that, so you don't know what's coming, and then you lift it up and you go, ooh, hey, or you fight it. It's like there's little things in there. There's just little things.
And I will say, I think the gameplay is something very special. I really like how the game plays. I'm already like starting the solo scenarios. I'm like, oh god, is this going to be enough for me?
Right. The progression is slow. It's slower than a multiplayer. I think they may have kind of stretched it out a little bit too much.
Yeah.
The ramp up is a little bit slow. You have to get involved in the story, and I understand like they're trying to ease people in. But by the time I kind of reached, because you play all the factions, so you start with the brawn end, you're small, and then you're big. Then you go to the heirs, then you're small, and you're big. By the time I got to the Grove Tenders, which is another faction, I'm like, I don't want to start small again. I want to just get in there. Like, I don't, if that makes sense, Yeah. And this is a really small thing about the solo. Like, this is not, this is just like me being petty now. But in the solo, not only do you achieve the main objective, which is usually like, defeat the big enemy, there's usually kind of sub objectives in order to get like more, like better renowns, basically achievements. So like beat the enemy and also beat all their spires. So because the troops and the siege towers are animated, they usually don't give you enough time to complete the secondary objectives. Mm-hmm. So like my hero is going after that last spire, but I can't tell my own siege tower to stop firing. Right. Just let the little guy go so I can get my objective done.
Right.
And obviously, you plan ahead and you plan around, you want to last long enough and your hero be powerful enough to complete all the objectives. So you plan around that, but like sometimes you can't because you're reacting to what the enemy's doing. So I didn't love that. I could definitely tell that they're just kind of like, okay, here's some objectives to achieve. Good luck. Again, I'm being petty on that one, just to kind of give people a sense of what the gameplay is. Mm-hmm. This game's an 8 out of 10 for me. It's an 8 out of 10 as a competitive game. I think it's an 8 out of 10 at a solo as well because it's giving me something different. Your question, Liz, like, is this worth the price tag? That's you're going to have to want to play a MOBA and not have that in your life and really want it in order to make it justified. I think. I don't know if that's an answer, but that's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah.
We're also going to ask ourselves, honestly, with Chip Theory Games, which is the true test of one, loyalty, a high reputation company, high customer service company, highest quality components, especially if you've owned any of their games along the way.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You're in it, but as you keep stacking up these $100 experiences with them, right. This one being, I think, their most expensive box right out the gate, maybe $130. No. So Too Many Bones is about the same price. So
yeah, my pledge was $174.
Right.
So the 5th expansion and the whatever.
So here we are, right? And then Too Many Bones, like with everything, is like $225. So yeah,
and Hoplo, everything ends up being in a big range too.
Right. So it's like, actually no, with Cloudspire it's like $400 if you get everything. So you get absolutely everything. Yeah, but I'm just saying that's absolutely everything. Assuming you don't have premium chips, assuming you want a mat, assuming you want like all that stuff.
Right.
But I'll just say this, like that's a true test because. Like, I call that earning it. Like, they've earned it enough where, like, if you're on that fence of choice, you already know that you're in for that price with them. It's like, now have they earned your right to go, like, and I remember how we started out with this game, right? You remember how we started out with this game?
Yeah, I was looking for those videos of the bad music from Essen, right? And I was thinking, no.
But that's the thing. It's just like, okay, they earned it enough where I can go, like, yeah, I'm going to try this. And like, because I have all their games and I haven't been disappointed yet. Like,
it's the only game of theirs I don't have is I did not do anything with the game to pick a game.
Yeah, game to pick a game. That's it.
Oh yeah.
Like, actually, I like Triplock.
Yeah,
that's a fun little memory thing. I really like their work generally. They create really interesting worlds. They have interesting imaginations, like something that I don't actually see with other companies. It's true, you're right.
Yeah, so it's just like that tactile feel they have in all their games. The neon-green mats, what they're known for. The chip trays that are in there that you pay for add-ons and other campaigns. You know, like all those things. Big secure boxes that don't split in half. You know, all these things that they put work into, and they continue to give you these nice thick player boards. They get bigger and better. They get, it's just, they continue to add this value or just add price point to the game. And you have to decide, like, they've earned this over time, but they've also gotten better with their quality over time. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
I think this is a better game. Like, this is a better game than Too Many Bones, flat out. This is a better game than Hoplomachus for me, flat out.
Okay. We need to pipe down. Okay, we need to pipe down. Jason, you need to pipe down. Do you need a soda? Do you need something? Do you need... Drink your scotch. That's probably
better than Hoplomachus.
I got big love for Hoplomachus. Yeah. I'm not ready to leave it. Yeah, my loyalty is strong.
You just don't have to say stuff like that, Jason. You just don't. Like, you don't actually have to say it.
Well, I hit a nerve. Oh my goodness.
Are you trying to write a newspaper or something? Are you trying to write a newspaper? You late for an article
look, there are a lot of Too Many Bones fans out there that just like drop their soda going, what? Yeah. Too Many Bones is amazing.
It's absolutely... I mean, great. Kudos to you for just saying something, but that's just not. You just can't just say stuff like that.
I really did enjoy the solo. I also really enjoyed the multiplayer. Did not enjoy the cooperative, though, but that's unfortunate. Yeah. But it's to a taste. You know, you have to be in that mode of the totally strategic and being okay with. You know, because it's animated, you have to be able to kind of see 6 turns down.
Yeah.
So I'm employing this troop now. They have a movement of this, and they're going this far, and they can move over this terrain, and that the other people has a movement of this, and their towers are this range. So like you have to be able to kind of calculate. Well, in turn 4 they're going to be here. In turn 3, like if you really want to play well, and that's not gameplay that's for everybody. It just isn't. But if it is, I think that there's a lot here. Solo, I enjoyed it. You know, is it the best solo game that I played this year? No. It is. Is it worth it for solo? Your question. I think that there is a solo only from the ground up game. I think would start you faster and deliver more punch, like more along the way. So as opposed to kind of stretching it out a little bit, but. Hey, you're getting a lot. You're getting solo. You're getting competitive. You're getting all the beautiful chips. You're getting Cloudspire is definitely a recommendation, but just kind of internalize a lot of what the points that what Liz bringing up, I'm bringing up, Jeremy's bringing up, and see if it's worth the dive because that is a hefty price tag. That is definitely true.
Hey, I can't remember, Jason. Do they have another set of solo scenarios that come with that other expansion? I can't remember. I'm just like I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
There's solo scenarios for every faction.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So then they're faction specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was thinking is, the other thing is if we like solo, like, is there going to be the possibility for more scenarios, if that makes sense? Like, is this a system that can keep growing as a solo game? Because that's the other thing that adds to value.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Because the solo scenarios are so designed around the growth of the different factions and what they can do and all that kind of stuff. So I imagine that solo would take a long time to craft. I don't anticipate there being a whole lot there. I think that the solo is going to grow out of whatever they do with competitive design.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was just going to say
I bet you Liz is asking all these questions and you're like,
That's my job. I ask annoying questions.
Yes.
I was gonna say this is like another thing for this kind of argument is like Kingdom Death Monster is one of my favorite games of all time, and there's just no way that I can recommend a game as a solo only purchase with such a huge price tag. But what I can tell, just like this game or just like Too Many Bones, what I can say is like these are the benefits. But you got to realize, we're talking luxury gaming here. Disposable income luxury gaming. All I can tell you is that for me, it would be this, but I am never going to ever tell anybody, for $120, it's well worth it. I think I want people to know that they're not getting a piece of crap quality-wise.
Well, It's also good design. Like, we're not just paying for that. We're paying for Josh and Adam Carlson putting good design. I think they're getting better.
Jason,
I think
do you
that
feel like when somebody says, hey, it's a good design, like at the core of it, do people really care? Like if I said, hey, no, seriously, like, okay, so PAX Premiere, we did that in our previous podcast, right? Like,
yep.
If you don't own PAX Premiere, the second edition, why am I paying $80 for this game? Like, why? Like, oh, well, when I lay it out, well, I'm laying out this linen whatever. I'm like, my grandma can make that. Like, what do we talk about? Well, the thing that you're holding there, these little those little stones that you put down or whatever, they just look like chalk. They look like big pieces of chalk. $85.
I think they look like candy, actually.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, that doesn't merit 85 to some people. But it's a design. There's a lot of design that goes into that.
But the design, baby, is good.
Yeah,
I guess what I want to push back against, just a little part of that is, I think there might be an instinct to say, okay, this is a $120 game with like neoprene mats and chips and everything. Could they have made this game for like $70?
Right.
And delivered all the same gameplay? And I'm
no way.
Gonna,
it's chip theory. No, that was never gonna happen.
And I think that like in order to get Josh and Adam Carlson on your table, this is the delivery system for Josh and Adam Carlson.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. You're not going to get a cheaper game. I don't think they just did their design process. They have to just kind of enter into these more expensive games. And I think they're getting better. Like, this is not like a perfectly designed game. Like, there's some corner cases that get a little bit weird. There's some, they had a lot of rules problems with Too Many Bones. This was not an easy learn. Like, this took a long time to grok and whatever, and there's still like corner cases where it's like, when does this fire off timing wise? And so there's still rough patches there, but I just like the core experience. I like where the game put me. I like where the game put me in that, the Clash of Clans, the Plants vs. Zombies, I have to put something down and plan 6 turns ahead for how useful this is going to be. And it delivered that on the core. I can talk, the fringes, I consider the production quality, I guess, a little bit fringe. In that case, like, I need the core to be good. So if the core is good and they're telling me you only get this core with these quality components, then it's like, all right, I like the core. So I guess that's what I'm buying into. There is no way to get this game for $80. You have to pay the $100.
You have to. Yeah, you have to.
And if you don't like it, then somebody else can make a MOBA game for $80 or $70 and just, I will play that and I'll be the judge of that.
And the thing is that what you're saying right there is it's earned. We know that, right? Versus someone who's starting out and they're saying that this was my vision from the get-go. They haven't earned it, so therefore people will dissect that apart. They'll rip it apart. And they'll say, no, you can't make the neoprene stuff. You're not chip theory. You make it cardboard. Like, you make it hex boards and be done with it. And that's the hardest part, man, for backers to decide, and for us reviewers, we got to make sure we make that clear, like the quality and the design and stuff like that. So it's a hard choice.
Yeah. If it was cheaper, it'd be a 9.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I'll be perfectly honest. If it was cheaper, it'd be a 9. But it's an 8. There's a barrier to it, and like, I think what Liz has her finger on some of the issues with solo. That it's fun, but does it have as much room in there to put stuff in there? I think that every faction has their 4 scenarios. And if you add more scenarios to that base faction, is it going to change the gameplay experience enough to make it worth it?
Yeah, and I ask because, I do play with a game group, but the fact is I don't buy games that I can't play solo. I don't. Right. My collection has almost none. It only has a set of games that are in my classroom for game club at school. And other than that, I don't buy multiplayer. So for me, it's not, I'm sure
it's got to be good solo. It's got to be good.
Yeah, it has to be good.
Got to be good.
Solo.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay for it, but it has to be really good.
Yeah.
Is it worth $130 solo? No. I cannot give an unqualified yes. I have a lot of caveats. The caveats all add up to yes, but you got to run through those caveats to see if they're run for you. That's like exactly what I'm with this.
Like a coin flow chart.
Yeah.
It
is not an unqualified yes.
For myself, like, it's just not fleshed out enough to say that. So like, I would just say I'm really banking on what they've set up thus far, and what you're saying right there just kind of helps me go like, okay, well, that'll help me learn the game anyway. But I can see, like, it's still it is like, all right, I'm just going to go on a limb because of their reputation and what they've done. And this game has actually been designed. I think it was like their second design. So
yeah, it was one of their early ones that they've like.
So Yeah,
finally
worked
brought
at
to
it and
fruition.
worked at it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it's
So
dope.
actually,
Hey,
it's
pack
a
some beers
good
like that
question.
too.
It's a good question that you bring up. Well, just kind of tangentially, but just kind of end the episode. I don't think, because following up on last week's discussion, I don't know that there's a single $100+ game that I've given a unqualified recommendation to. Now it's escaping me. Like whenever it gets to above, I'm always like, okay, well, if you like this, and if you're willing to do this, and if you want this experience, and if, do you guys have a game or two or whatever that's over $100 that you would say, okay, you have to go get this. This is totally worth it.
Yeah. Folklore.
Wow.
Ooh.
Really? Whoa.
Well, I think all
Folklore.
games are a matter of taste, right? But I would unequivocally recommend all the Sentinels and Multiverse stuff. That definitely is over 100, but I don't even know how much money I put into Sentinels.
Yeah.
It was worth every penny, and I have no regrets at all. I almost definitely put over $100 into Spirit Island at this point. I have no regrets about putting over $100 into Spirit Island. And
see, that's
I do not.
So that's with
regret
expansions,
Hoplomachus
but that's
at
with
all.
expansions. Like I'm guessing, like I'm talking like a base game.
Yeah.
Like a base, like Cloudspire is a base game. Like I know it's $170 for the other stuff, and but that base game $100 some odd dollars. Like, is there a base game out there that you can totally recommend?
Gloomhaven is exactly 100.
Okay.
I would go with. Let's see, behind me right here, Midara. Like that's another one like that's so far out, but it went so big. But any of the Vital Lacerda games that I like specifically, like Lisboa and the Gallerist, those are going to be ones that's going to test your limit, because that's just like a singular experience. There's no campaign. It's just that one big board game. Mm-hmm. But like I said, every time I say that, I'm realizing that this is me having the expendable income for that one board game. And I'm also very fortunate to maybe buy two of those games at the same time if I felt like it, right? So like that's just me buying two games. But like for someone to say like, all right, well, how much is a Gallers? Oh, well, you probably find it maybe $89.99, but if you want to go to the website, no, you get it. It's $119.
Yeah.
Like I just could never tell someone to do that.
Yeah.
I
guess that's the point. That's the point. I can't tell people, like, if it's a $60 game, I can be like, everyone buy this now.
Right. I would
just do it. Just everybody. I don't care who you are, buy it. Like Pandemic Legacy for me, everyone buy it. Just do it. Go buy it right now. But like these bigger games like the Cloudspire, like, I think there's this kind of, when people listen, they want to hear like, oh, this person loves it, and they just give a huge recommendation. And I have to be honest, I have to say, with these bigger, more expensive base games, I have a hard time. Giving an unqualified recommendation. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that I'm like, I have reservation about the game itself. The game is really good. I like Cloudspire a lot. Don't read my hesitation as, there's something wrong with the game. It's really good.
No,
just,
Well, people want you to be unequivocal in your recommendation. Yes, but it's also that, it's interesting. I've gotten comments on my blog. So if you've listened to me talk about it, you know that I'm no great lover of Charterstone, because I played it all solo and it was not my favorite gaming experience. We'll leave it there. But, I actually got a comment on my blog the other day that was like, I found it for $20 on sale. Would the price change your recommendation? And I was like, no, I stand by what I said.
Oh, okay. Turn around.
Right.
Because you know what? I don't want to play it again for $20 either.
Yeah, when people say, is it worth it? I think sometimes that's the thing, but I'm like, at the same time, it's still the same game. Like, you could talk yourself into it, but you're just taking the risk. That's fine. But you still may get it for $20 and go like, the only difference is that you won't feel as hurt maybe about your purchase, but you will still have wasted your time with that game experience. Mm-hmm. And you could have put 10 more extra dollars into another game that would have been something you were dying to get,
Yeah, totally.
And that's just how I feel. And, furthermore, I'm looking at all these $100 boxes that we probably have behind us and back over here, and I'm thinking to myself like,
yeah, you see mine.
yeah, you're just thinking to yourself like, I have this Barnacle Bay game back here, I got Skull Tales, all the Champions of Horror, Folklore, City of Kings, all these things, and when you said that to me, I was just like, well, I had to stare over there, and I was just like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like if I would just say, hey, buy this for me for right now, and I was trying to give it an honest value, and some of these I've painted, so I'm like, all right. It's still a hard sell, man. Like it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's just hard.
So I just wanted to kind of put that out there because I don't want if anybody reads any hesitation about Cloudspire that I'm giving, like, so Liz says, what is this worth it for solo? And I'm like, I'm not saying like immediate yes. That doesn't mean it's not great. I really had a good time. It's just at that price point, I'm starting to look for there is a kind of a slow ramp up, and there's some rules ambiguities here and there. So, but it's great. It's fun.
And I will say my plays have been very positive so far.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so that was 2 episodes. That was a lot of discussion. That wasn't even on the table, like in terms of the outline and everything, talking about some of this stuff. But when Liz, Jeremy, and I get together, it's just we just have a really great time, and just all bets are off. Whatever's on our minds, we're gonna let it rip. So thank you guys so much for riding with me, vibing with me. As always, this has been absolutely wonderful. So Jeremy, we'll wrap this up. Jeremy, what do you have coming forward? You got more Man vs. Meeple stuff. You got Board Game Spotlight. That's where else can we find your content?
Well, right now, I'd like you to kind of head over to Man vs. Meeple for Solo Sundays with Jambalaya. Every Sunday, Central Standard Time, 3 p.m., so CDT or CST or whatever. I'm on the Man vs. Meeple Facebook page doing solo games live. You're going to see one each week, and I kind of promote it starting on Wednesday. You can join the Jambalaya Plays Games community page to find out more stuff like that. My previews are primarily with Man vs. Meeple, so you're going to see those pop up in the rotation of previews. Always feel free to come by and give me feedback and check the stuff out. And then you can also head over to my YouTube page, which I am about to start launching some new content, and I'm really excited about it. So please come see me.
Cool. And Liz, we don't have to worry about Beyond Solitaire, right? Beyond Solitaire is still going strong.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I love my channel. It's not going anywhere. So you can always find me at beyondsolitaire.net. On YouTube is Beyond Solitaire. That's where I put my tutorials. And I actually just released a top 5 roll and writes video. It's my first top anything. Mm-hmm. And then, you can also find me on the Dice Tower where I'm doing some solo reviews as well.
So happy for you for that, man. So happy to see that.
I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
Liz, Jeremy, thank you so much. We will not be strangers, but hopefully later this year or early next year, we'll get the band back together.
Yeah.
I hope so. This is always fun for me.
And I look forward to it, man. It's been too long.
All right. Thanks to Liz and Jeremy for stopping by for another episode. So many episodes with Liz and Jeremy, and that is not going to end anytime soon. Like I said at the closing, I really do hope that it isn't too long before they stop by again with more games and more fun times ahead. So, quick note, I'm listening back to the episode here in post. I may have overspoken when I said Cloudspire is a better game. How can I, judge that? I enjoyed it more. Like I said, 8 out of 10. People who are fans of Hoplo, fans of Too Many Bones, calm down. Don't. All good games in their own right, and I'm happy to have played Cloudspire as far as that goes. Anyway, so if you want to interact with the show, please hit us up, ENGN_podcast on the Twitter, Every Night is Game Night Facebook group. It's been a little bit more active lately. Tommy Ray, thank you so much for posting and putting pictures of zoos on the ramparts and all that kind of stuff. Liz has been posting as well, so thank you so much for kicking up a little bit of activity there. The Slack group, which is the private forum that the One Stop Co-op Shop runs. I have a channel there. Now Beyond Solitaire has a channel there, so we're growing a little family. If you want to hang out with a lot of people who have a lot of deep or fun or whatever thoughts about gaming, go ahead and hit the subscribe button that is in the show notes. Just click that button next to the Slack channel and you will appear right into the Slack and enjoy all of that conversation. So go ahead and hit up BGA as well while you're at it. BGA Patreon, Board Game Anonymous, helps this show and keeps it running, especially for the website. So we do have a website, everydayisgamenight.com, which helps us kind of, especially on the publisher end. They always ask, okay, link a website. Or for conventions, link a website. So in case you want to get media access, so that helps us as well. Not sure what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks in terms of scheduling. I'm hoping that Anthony is back next week, but we'll see. I love keeping on my toes and seeing what's going on. So until next week, go ahead and grab a solo game off of that shelf and let's make every night a game night.